Welcome to a brand new series of the What Ifs. Now we're talking about football. Baseball was in the past, now it's about football. And this time I talk about one of the greatest jokes in sports, the 93 Houston Oilers, now known as the Tennessee Titans. The franchise, the franchise known as the Houston Oilers was part of the AFL, and in 1962 they suffered an ignominious loss in the AFL title game, even though that Dallas Texan, now Kansas City Chief, actually had Abner Hayes, a legendary running back, said, "We will kick to the clock." But he said the word kick and all that. Strange enough, Houston did not take advantage of that, and they lost the AFL title game. The others were owned by Bud Adams, who was a fairly good oil tycoon and wanted Houston to have an NFL team or an AFL team to compete with Dallas. Houston was brought into the NFL when the AFL merged with the NFL. So they were part of the AFC. They were with Pittsburgh, Cincy, and Cleveland, all venerable franchises of their time. The Houston Oilers' first big movement in the 70s were just terrible. They had only 2 wins in 26 games and all that. And of course, that famous fan flipping the middle finger. But anyway, the Houston Oilers drafted smart. They got Dan Pastorini and a running back from Texas that was a prime candidate for a good NCAA to NFL running back by the name of Earl Campbell. Using the weapons and a good defense with Alvin, with an E, Bavea, and a few other people, the Houston Oilers looked good. The 1979 season was one of their best of all time. Heck, they beat Dallas in Dallas on U.S. Thanksgiving, which was a famous game nationwide. Nationwide is not on your side. But anyway, Houston made it all the way to the AFC title game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. After being demolished 34-5 the previous year, the Oilers were hoping for better things, and they did better. And all of a sudden, with a few minutes left in the third quarter, they had perfect play to one of their wideouts. I can't remember, the name escapes me, but anyway, Houston thought they had a touchdown. Unfortunately, even though they had the receiver had Mike Renfro had 2 feet down, it was not made a touchdown. And if an instant replay had been existing, they would have called it a touchdown for Houston, and that blew Houston up. But Houston coach Bum Phillips promised that the third time lucky, Houston will get into the Super Bowl. Didn't happen. Houston would go on to have some decent seasons in the 1980s. Unfortunately, nothing big. The 90s, they were big. The big thing for Houston in the mid-80s was picking up the rights to Warren Moon, who led Washington to the Washington Huskies. I'm talking NCAA. Led the Huskies to the 1978 Rose Bowl, and then no NFL team wanted him because of his size. What I call racism. Warren Moon decided to jump ship up north to Canada and was part of the Edmonton Eskimos team that was a dynasty. 5 straight Grey Cups. Now I know that the luster it is off because it's Canadian and there was only 9 teams, but 5 title wins in 9 league and all that. That's amazing. Despite the fact that the CFL players change almost every freaking year and all that. Warren Moon was so good that he and his coach Hugh Campbell actually went to the USFL. But then Hugh Campbell got a call from the Houston Oilers to be their head coach, and Campbell took Moon with him, and Moon was a central part of the Houston Oilers for a decade until Minnesota picked him up. But anyway, the Houston Oilers in 1992 were decent, a decent 10-6 record. They were to win their final game and clinch a wild card spot. They would ironically play the Buffalo Bills, the team that they faced at the Astrodome in the regular season. Houston actually was on a high for this game because Jim Kelly got hurt, and it was up to Frank Reich to lead the Bills' offense. More on that later. After the 92 season, Houston in 93. Now, I know that technically I'll be talking about the 93 season, which leads to the 94 playoffs. Of course, that confuses the heck out of me, but I go by season. But anyway, the 93 Oilers were much better. But as NFL Football Life talked about the '93 Oilers. They were with controversies. There was the offensive lineman who decided to stay behind to help his wife and child instead of playing for the Oilers. And of course, Bud Adams was getting the shtick kicked out of him because he said men are men and women do women's jobs. Kind of sexist, don't you think? Well, anyway, they also had problems because a prominent defensive tackle by the name of Jeff Alm committed suicide in December. He actually had some problems at a Houston practice, and then the night of, he accidentally killed his friend. Well, he thought his friend had died, so he shot himself. I don't know if charges were going to be against Alm, but anyway, that ruined Houston's momentum. Houston did, in fact, have a 14-2 record. Everyone was looking forward to seeing Houston in the divisional playoff win a home game at the Astrodome. Of course, Buddy Ryan, who became head coach after they got rid of Jack Pardee, actually shocked everyone by punching Kevin Kilbride, one of his coordinators, in the face, mostly because he hated the offense's chuck and duck thing that would put stress on the defense. But anyway, Houston would take on the Kansas City Chiefs with a resurgent Joe Montana. And what did Joe Montana do in his first AFC season? I think it was his first AFC season. Yeah. He mowed down Houston and actually got a touchdown to J.J. Burden, who then decided to spike the ball in the snout of a Buddy Ryan poster. The Chiefs ended up winning in the fourth quarter, and that was the last time Houston hosted a playoff game or played a playoff game, well, in the city of Houston. Unfortunately, the Oilers unraveled. 2-14 the next year. It was just disastrous. Sure, they got Steve McNair to help them out, but Steve McNair can only take you so far. And unfortunately, Houston didn't want a team. Of course, playing in the Astrodome, like, they didn't really want to take chances with the football field. So unfortunately, a rally to save the Houston Oilers fell flat, and the team moved on to Tennessee to become the Tennessee Oilers before they became the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Tennessee Titans are well known for being in that famous Who's to Say Miracle game, which was the first NFL game played in the 2000s. Now, the reason is because, well, I'm going to be talking about it more when I talk about the Buffalo Bills and their what if. But anyway, the Titans won somehow by cheating, and then, for some reason, they got to the Super Bowl. Now, their AFC title game was not controversial. The Titans actually shocked the 14-2 Jacksonville Jaguars, who should have been going to the Super Bowl that year. Unfortunately for the Jaguars, their two regular season losses were to the same team, the Titans. So the Titans beat them 3 straight times, and now they're in the Super Bowl against the Rams. Unfortunately for the Titans, they became 1 yard short in the Rams, and Dick Vermeil got the title. The Titans have not really had a lot of playoff runs since then. They've got Marcus Mariota. They've got a young team. They're looking good. The problem here is that you got to look at the 93 team for why Houston collapsed. Well, the 92-93 team. Houston took a 35-3 lead against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo and had a date with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC divisional round. But Frank Reich rallied the troops and made it 38-35. Thankfully, Elder Greco did kick a field goal to tie the game, go to overtime when Houston got picked off, and then Steve Christie kicked the winning field goal. Now, of course, how would you guess it was 35-3? And how would you guess that Frank Reich would actually be a hero for the second time? After all, this was the same Maryland quarterback who actually came into play and led Maryland from a 31-0 deficit at Miami Stadium to a 42-40 win over the Hurricanes. That was, I believe, 1 or 2 games before Doug Flutie sunk the Hurricanes with his Hail Mary. So anyway, Houston was just on a downhill turn. Never mind that the Rockets won back-to-back NBA titles. Things look back. The Astros weren't doing that half bad. They were actually gaining traction. Well, they wouldn't win a title until 2017, but anyway. That's the way. So anyway, here's how the NFL works. Rule 1 is the same. You cannot be in a final. You lose in a Super Bowl final, you're automatically disqualified. Because I like a what if you win a playoff game in a certain round, or even failed to make the playoffs and then won again. So here's what's going to happen. We are going to assume that the 93 Oilers hung on against the Buffalo Bills. The score is not important, but we'll say the Oilers hung on against the Bills. Houston would play Pittsburgh. That's what we're going to do. According to the playoff structure of 1993, the Bills were the 4 seed. The Astros. The Oilers were the 5 seed. And with San Diego beating the 6 seed Kansas City Chiefs the day before, obviously it meant that the winner would take on Pittsburgh. Buffalo, of course, took down Pittsburgh, Miami, and then got their asses handed to them in the Super Bowl by 35 points. So here's what's going to happen. We scratched Buffalo from the list and put Houston in. Now here's the thing. Buffalo went to the Super Bowl as the AFC representative. The NFC will be untouched. If I do it in one conference, I can't do it in the other one, and the other conference is safe. So Dallas will be heading the Super Bowl, no matter what. So now here's the thing. Houston takes Buffalo's spot to take on Pittsburgh. San Diego and Miami stayed the same. The 3 seed San Diego against number 2 Miami. So Miami, by virtue of the fact that they have to wait on the winner of Houston-Pittsburgh, will get in. So Miami is waiting for the winner. If Pittsburgh wins, then Pittsburgh will host the Dolphins in the 1992-93 AFC title game. If not, then if Houston wins, they'll play Miami. Now, Dallas won the Super Bowl. So here's the thing. Houston has to beat both Pittsburgh and Miami. If they lose to either one of them, then Dallas will be gifted the Super Bowl and we don't have to worry about that. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's what we will have to do. Okay, so the 10-6 Oilers take on the 11-5 Pittsburgh Steelers. You see the lineup? Houston did not really have a tight end, so basically that's why it's there. You see the main starting lineup. The weather in real time in Pittsburgh, when Pittsburgh played Buffalo, was 35 with light precipitation and light wind. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to play. And as you can see, it's 28-24. The Oilers end up beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. First quarter, Neil O'Donnell got a touchdown to Ernie Mills. Second quarter, Moon to Webster Slaughter for a touchdown. Barry Foster with a touchdown run. Webster Slaughter got a touchdown pass from Moon to make it 14-14. Gary Anderson, after a field goal, made it 13-14. And then with 3 minutes left, Barry Foster with a touchdown run to make it 24-14. But Houston recovered. Warren Moon with a touchdown run with 11 minutes left. And then with 3 minutes left, Moon to Slaughter, 28-24 final score for Houston. So Houston does move on to face Miami, the number 2 seed. You see the team statistics on the right-hand side. Okay, so rushing, Lorenzo White, 16 times for 83 yards. Barry Foster, 115 yards on the ground. Nicely done, but they couldn't do it. Receiving, 3 touchdown receptions by Webster Slaughter. He was a legend. Passing, Moon, only 15 for 19, but 3 touchdowns was good. Neil O'Donnell, 18 for 23, 200 yards, a touchdown. That's not bad. The only pick was to David Little. See there, Gary Anderson missed from 49-47, no big deal. So now the Oilers will take on the Miami Dolphins. So you got to switch her up. Miami Dolphins of 92, 75 degrees. It was 75 and clear in Miami. So Dan Marino and company. See right there. We played the game. And shockingly, the Houston Oilers defeat the Miami Dolphins 20-19. In the first quarter, Aldo Greco made a touchdown. Field goal. And then Tony Page from Marino, minute left, touchdown, 6-3. Stojanovic missed the extra point. Stojanovic hits a 41-yard field goal to make it 9-3. Bobby Humphrey makes it 16-3 with a touchdown run. And you're thinking to yourself, Houston's dead as dishwater. Don't tell them that. Lorenzo White scores a touchdown with 6 minutes left. Pete Stojanovic hits a field goal at 19-10. With 2 minutes left, Ernest Givens from Warren Moon made it 19-17. And then after a stop, Elder Greco from 25 yards out. Warren Moon magic. because they got the Greco close for a touchdown, a field goal to win the game, and they did. Lorenzo White, 110 yards on the ground. Bobby Humphrey, 116 yards rushing. If memory serves me right, I think he played for the Broncos in the 1980s. But anyway, Hayward Jeffries, almost 100 yards. Mark Duper, Marino, 18 for 29, 254, touchdown and pick. Warren Moon, 21 from 30, 250 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Defense did well. The interceptions, Louis Oliver and Rick Graff. So Greco made 2 field goals. Stojanovic made 2, but he missed a 48-yarder. That's not easy. 48 yards is not easy. So that means they go to the Super Bowl at 10-6. That's amazing. Unfortunately for them, they'll take on Dallas. Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Daryl Johnson, Michael Irvin, as you see right there. Jay Novacek. So obviously we have to pick the Rose Bowl because that's where is the Rose Bowl? Is it the Rose Bowl? I don't know why it's not giving me the Rose Bowl. Unless they changed the name, but I don't think they changed the name. Sorry about this. I didn't anticipate Pasadena's Rose Bowl not having. I think they changed the name, didn't they? Or did they not give it that because it wasn't an NBA? I have a feeling that because it's not an NBA stadium, an NFL stadium, they actually said no, fuck that. So we will randomly pick Levi's Stadium, Santa Clara, because I think that's close to Pasadena. So Levi's actually gets picked to be the Super Bowl champions. And the Super Bowl does go to the Dallas Cowboys. So technically, Houston loses their thing. Loses their thing. Oh, well, what can you expect? It's the Dallas Cowboys. 22-10 your score. Lynn Elliott, a field goal of 50 yards. That's amazing. Elder Greco hit one from 37. Michael Irvin got a touchdown pass from Aikman. Lynn Elliott misses the extra point. Michael Irvin from Aikman, 66 yards touchdown. Elliott again missed the extra point. That's amazing. I don't think teams couldn't go for 2 at this situation. Lorenzo White with a 3-yard touchdown run, but in the end, Johnson from Aikman. Dallas does win the Super Bowl. The 92 Oilers did much better. They got to the Super Bowl, but they lost. Michael Irvin named MVP, 137 yards, receiving 2 touchdowns. What do you expect? Warren Moon went 4 for 10. What? 4 for 10. Amazing. But they decided to give Lorenzo White the ball. 156 yards and a touchdown. That's not bad. Emmett 122 yards with no touchdowns. Troy Aikman 20 for 29, threw 84 and 3 touchdowns. So, gee. Well, Lynn Elliott missed a 44-yard field goal, which is strange because I know you can hit a 50-yarder. That would be amazing. But anyway, pity the Houston Oilers. They did much better than everyone anticipated. They actually did get to the Super Bowl, which is better than most people thought they would have done.